دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافع خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار آزمون به توی دروازه سردار آزمون گل به نام آزمون برای ایران
بزنه کریم انصاری گل توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد
علی دایی سام توپ توی دروازه
اشتباه حرکت از کوچان نژاد فرصت برای کوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Welcome back to another edition of Gol Bezan, guys. I'm hosting for today, Samson Tamajani, in for usual host Sina Sadrzadeh. We haven't gotten a chance to go kidnap him in Greece and bring him back to host yet, so we're working on that. But in the meantime, we have so much to discuss today. We have the greats in order to do that. Arya Alaverdi and Irfan Hosseini. Arya, first up, what's up, man? What's on your mind just as we start?
Yeah, good to be back on. It's been a while. Discussing the national team. And just enjoying the Euros, other than Friday night when my second team got absolutely battered by the hosts. Other than that, we'll see how England get on tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, Arya was not a very happy, kilt man the other day. But Irfan, what's up with you, man? Coming on to us straight from Dubai again, right?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, obviously, finally done with school. It's finally over for me, and just trying to enjoy the football over the summer, and any sports really. So yeah, I think I've been going well.
Yeah, Spain has their teenage sensation. We have ours with Irfan Hosseini. So a lot to get to this episode. Just a brief summary of what all we will have. What we have. Reviewing, obviously, the Team Melli June camp, the final qualifiers, as we look ahead to the final round of qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup. What stood out from that? What players did we need more from? What coaches do we need more from? I think that goes without saying, but we'll definitely be discussing that. The new rankings, the settings for the Asian Champions League for our favorite Iranian clubs, for all of our listeners. Men and women, the corruption scandal really going on throughout Iranian clubs. We'll be talking about that as well. Let's just jump straight into it. We had Iran a very, let's say, modest, as modest as a 4-goal game can get in a victory against Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, and then coming back to Azadi Stadium in front of around 40,000 people. And getting a very, let's say, just boring and uneventful result against Uzbekistan that still let Iran win the group. Probably a few arguments would have suggested Iran should have scored 2 or 3 goals and really had the better showing, but just 0-0 and let the game close out the last few minutes without, pushing much further. So just a review of the Team Melli camp from June. We heard a few different things about going on in camp, and then the games. What how that all transcended from the training ground into the results. What did we think of that? Irfan, I'll let you start.
We saw the players were looking very positive before the games, from the campus when it started in Tehran all the way to Hong Kong, but the results and performances, I think we can all agree, were very disappointing. We expected a lot more from not only the players, but from the staff as well. There were some questionable decisions made throughout these games. In the Hong Kong game, I mean, I'm sorry, but we should not be conceding 2 goals against Hong Kong. I mean, no matter what the situation is, even if it's away, we've conceded 1 before. I think it was during the Scottish era. But conceding 2, I think it's very embarrassing, and that maybe needs to be a lesson taught to Ghalenoei that you should work on the defense, because the attack was there. We always, even if we're not at our best, we always have Taremi and Azmoun who can score 1 or 2 goals for us, and they showed that in that game. So yeah, it was very underwhelming, very disappointing, and I expected better.
Yeah, Iran had not conceded back in the March matches against Turkmenistan. It was 5-0, I believe, and then just 1-0. And then in the first game back at Hong Kong, conceded to Arya. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, Turkmenistan games, even though we didn't concede, it wasn't great performances, especially the second game. But I mean, we got the wins. But this camp, you know, 2 goals conceded against Hong Kong. Obviously, the 2 goals that we did concede, one of them, a real goal. Second one was a bit lucky to get that, but still, it was still bad defending, a breakdown of numerous things that happened within a phase of play. Something we saw in the Qatar game in the Asian Cup, and clearly it's not been addressed by the coaching staff. I don't think that we've addressed the issues that we had defensively in the Asian Cup, which is the peak of Asian football. And then we're playing against two teams, Uzbekistan, who, for a long time was a team that we would laugh if we ever played a friendly against them, because we played so many times. Now they have improved, but I mean, Iran really should be a better team by quite a long way. Even if Uzbekistan have improved, doesn't matter. We should still be better than them. And then the fact that we've drawn or tied 2 games in a row against them is very bad. Especially when it's at home. I didn't watch the game against Uzbekistan live because I was at work, but from what I've heard, from what I've seen, bits and bobs, it didn't look good. And I don't think that also some of the selection choices by Ghalenoei, which we'll come on to in a second, have been good enough either. So I think there's a lot of lessons that haven't been learned from the Asian Cup.
I made this point right after the match. I said an improved Uzbekistan team is still not better than a 2-0 loss to Iran. Iran is at least 2 goals better than an Uzbekistan team that is even improved. If you have all your main European players playing in the match, you should at least have a decent enough game plan to convert your chances, to not be in I guess, just disarray anytime Uzbekistan gets a counterattack. Is that something that a simple player selection should fix, Irfan?
It's not just player selection, because I would say we had most of our starting players for these games. So it's not just about the players, it's mostly about what the coach is doing before the game, the analysis, how they're analyzing the opponent. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on in the Team Melli staff. I don't know. I don't think they're the most experienced. I think these games just showed that we need to be doing more outside the pitch, and they don't get enough training to know what to do these games. I mean, they just go into these games with an aim to score. There's no actual football tactics seen, and it's not just the attacking but the defending as well. I mean, we were playing Khalilzadeh and Kanani for how long now? When is this going to finish? I think that there needs to be a point that it's going to stop. So yeah, that's what I think about it.
Well, and there wasn't a shortage of talent with this camp, with all the guys called up. But a lot of the guys who we expected to maybe get some playing time with, a coach whose player selections we usually agree with, did not get that playing time. There are several guys that stood out that we didn't see much of. Who were we left needing to see more of, Irfan or Arya? Who are the main guys we wish we could have seen?
I mean, like, squad selections for a national team head coach, at least from my point of view, is half of the job really for international coaching, right? I mean, you don't get to see the players for a long period of time, so you've got to select the right squad, and you've only got a couple of weeks to train them, so you've got to make the right decisions for the starting 11. So half the job really for in international football is squad selection. So if you can't get that part right, then I think you made a mistake. Now, when you want to be more specific, you know, I think defense again, Hasbovy should have started both games. Put it that way. I mean, there's no way in this day and age you start a guy like Khalid over a player like Hasbovy. Hasbovy is a young player, but he's got a lot of experience for a young player. He's played at youth national team for a long time. He's played he's playing Qatar now as well regularly. Unlike Khalid for a little while, wasn't doing that well in Qatar. So I think ultimately he's a player who deserves to start, not just because of his age, but also because he's actually a good player, and he's shown that. Even the game against Hong Kong, I thought he really stood out as a good player in that game, and Khalid didn't. And he was at fault for the first goal. So then to recall him for the second game and actually to give him a start, I think it's a mistake. Now I've heard some things here and there, like saying things like, this could be his last camp for national team. Well, if that's the case, then why are you starting him 2 games in a row? Do you know what I mean? So that's the first thing, and then the second one, I think um, in goals we've got Bayron Van playing the second game, and Niels Mann playing the first game. Both of who haven't been in great form this season. Niels Mann is not really anywhere near the form he's been in the past. He's not even getting statistically that higher standard in clean sheets. And then Bayron, although he's doing well in clean sheets, it's got to be more down to his defense. And he's made a lot of howlers this season. Whereas, and obviously I know Hosseini has been the better goalkeeper this season. But then when it comes to Iranian goalkeepers, it's always based on form, right? So like there was a time where Awazadeh was the best keeper. There was a time where Bayron was the best keeper. There was the time where Nielsmann was the best keeper. So it kind of in 2 months' time it could be Bayron again. So but at the moment in time, Hosseini's been great this season. He's only conceded like 15 goals this season. He's had the most clean sheets alongside the other goalkeeper that was in the squad. Give me his name, Irfan. I've completely forgotten.
Poor Hamidi.
Yeah, poor Hamidi, and I think he deserved to be in the squad. So and to start both games, but obviously we know why he wasn't called up. It couldn't have been because of technical reasons. And we all know the reason why he wasn't called up is because he did he did something that clearly the officials disagreed with on the pitch. He hugged a female supporter on the pitch. So that is the reason why. Because when Ghalenoei comes out and he says, yeah, he might get called up in the next camp, it doesn't make any sense because you can't just say that and actually be serious. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got to be stupid to say that, But that's my opinion.
Well, it's a non-soccer decision, and it made for allowing 2 goals to a team like Hong Kong. And now, Hasbovy did start the Hong Kong match. He did not start, did not even play, I don't think, against Uzbekistan. But like you said, Shojaei got to start both games. I think both games he played 90 minutes, and yeah, not impressive. Not impressive. He hasn't had a good 2024. I believe it was him that had the red card against Qatar as well to make everything that much harder. But yeah, Irfan, I'll let you go. What did you want to add to that?
Yeah, also something else that I think people would agree with. Hossein Nejad didn't get any game time, which is very disappointing yet again. I think with the way he's been playing with Sepahan, he's one of the best midfielders in the league at this age. I think he should definitely be getting a chance, especially the fact that we've already qualified for the next round. And also adding on to the points that Arya made, I definitely agree with him there. Hasbovy should be starting both these games. Like you mentioned, he's not only playing regularly in Qatar, but he's playing for the best team in Qatar. They won the double. So that's very impressive for him to do at this age. And, if he started Khalilzadeh and Hasbov in the first game and then Khalilzadeh and Kanan in the second game. Now, if he wanted to play Kanan in the second game, out of both the defenders to replace, I don't see why he replaced Hasbury. It should have been Khalid 100%. And then the other point about Hosseini, he's without a doubt been the best goalkeeper in Iran this season. 100% penalty save ratio, 2 penalties, both of them he saved it. Most clean sheets, least goals conceded.
That's pretty freaking good, mate. That's pretty
yeah,
good.
man. Yeah, I mean, it's just even you're not about the stats. I mean, if you just watch the games as well, I think he had the most saves as well this season.
But
so,
I mean, we all know why he wasn't called up.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a footballing issue.
Any sane person would not call him. You can't just put. And what really annoys me is the fact that he has the. People will always say that Arya is being overly critical of Ghalenoei. I understand that, right? Yes, we don't think Ghalenoei is at the standard of a national team head coach to take us to the World Cup. But then we also want somebody who can back up their words as well. So when he comes out and says, in after the Asian Cup, we're gonna play young players. We're gonna bring in young players. We're gonna change the team around. He drops Haj Safi. Okay, fair enough. Like he brought in Gol Bezan for one camp. He wasn't there second camp, right? Okay, fine. But at the same time, it's like, what is the point in bringing in young players to not play them? And now, obviously, I don't want to go into too much depth, but from what I'm hearing is like a lot of these young players are not even getting the chance in training sessions either. So they're just, it's not like he's just not playing them from the start in matches or even subbing them on. It's like even in training, he's not giving them opportunities to really show themselves. So I just feel like he's not really backing up his words. And then on top of that, he has the whole football, that whatever, it doesn't really matter, things happen, blah blah blah, that kind of vibe as well. And then he also when he's asked about the whole Hosseini thing, rather than being honest, he just says, "Oh yeah, we'll bring him into the next camp." To me, it's a waste of time having a coach who doesn't want to be honest, who doesn't want to be truthful, at the national team level.
Well, there were some bright spots. There was a couple of guys who were able to play well and coexist well with the lineups that were in. Irfan, you want to talk about that? It was Jalali and Hardani. You wanted to say, right?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that Ramin Rezayan was dropped, even though he's been having good performances lately for Sepahan. I don't know if this was because of age, because if it's because of age, then Khalid Zadeh should not be there as well. But whatever it was, Jalali came in to replace him, and I think he did pretty well. He was very good. I mean, Hardani as well, both of the Esteghlal fullbacks. I think that they're young as well. So it was a good experience for them. So I think that's one of the few positives we can take from this camp.
And let's be honest, we probably would have had Harami as a starter at least one of the games had he been healthy, but he kind of ruptured his ACL in the Asian Cup, so can't do much about that. But does this concern us for the future of the defensive back for Iran?
I think, look, not just our defense, but also like the kind of defensive aspect of our midfield. Like, we played Nur Afghan against Uzbekistan. Like, Irfan, you watched the PGPL. How is he starting?
Yeah.
How is he starting this game? Like,
and didn't have Ezzatullahi either.
Okay, I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, mate, there is like, you got to respect yourself a little bit here. Like, this guy is not playing at a high level. Like, why did Gorbani not play? He played a very good game against Hong Kong. Why would you not start him? Like, if there's a reason why you would not start him, I'll happily listen to it. And if anyone wants to disagree with me for that, okay, fine. But reality is, Nur Afghan should not start for the national team. And the fact that he starts the more difficult game as well in the two rounds, the two that we had, it's just so stupid. Honestly, it really annoys me so much.
So who has to be called up the next camp? Who or are your must-haves?
So I think we need to, first of all, we need to see Sahar Khizan in there. I mean, he's been one of the better strikers in the league this season. I think he scored 8 goals, and for a young striker, that's very impressive, especially in a league like the PG. For Gol
For which
Gohar, yeah.
club? Gohar, yeah.
For Gol Gohar, yeah. Gol Gohar, he scored 8 goals. They reached the cup semi-finals with him, and he scored a very impressive overhead kick, actually. So for a player of his age to score that many goals in a very defensive league like the PGPL, and a physical league, I think it's impressive. And I was very disappointed that he wasn't called up over Moranlu. So I hope to see him. And I mean, I know Ghalenoei knows of him because he's been called up in the previous camp. So with his form getting better and better, it just doesn't make sense. I don't see what he sees in Moranlu. I mean, yeah, he's the top scorer in the league, but we've seen before that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, look,
it has not translated.
I'll put it this way, right? Like the last Iranian person or player to be top goal scorer in the PGPL was Sajjad Shabboyzadeh, right? And like, yeah, that season he scored 20 goals, and I remember like it was when it was Dragan Skojic in charge of the national team, and people were begging him to get called up, and when he actually did get called up, we realized how useless he really is. Because being the top goal scorer of the PGPL doesn't translate to being a top striker. It doesn't. Because there's a lot of different elements. Like, for example, in the PGPL, the creativity is not the same way as it is in other leagues. So a striker is dependent on being a target man, getting it up to him as quick as possible and scoring. Whereas Iran don't play like that. We don't play like we try to be a bit more creative, and I don't think a Moranlu can really impact games when he has to get involved in the build up or he has to be a little bit more mobile. He's not going to score goals at national team level because of that. Whereas when he plays in Sepan, he will score goals because he plays a certain way of football, a certain brand of football that can help him play and score goals. Whereas a guy like Sarah Khizan or like a guy like Shahab Zahedi, who's doing really well in Japan just now, albeit he got 2 red cards quite recently. I think that's probably why he wasn't called up. But I think he should have been called up. Even though he just left in the PGPL, he wasn't scoring as many goals. He's going to Japan. He's scoring goals. So there are players like him. Obviously, Azadi was called up. He didn't play. We still have the opportunity to bring in Kaveh Zahirul Islam as well, who I've actually heard there's been some kind of things going on behind the scenes. We'll need to see what happens in that regard. But there are other players that we could bring in that have better mobility up front. But even Kasra Tahiri, who's playing in Rubin Kazan just now, in the next couple of years, he might be ready to get called up. So, we just need to we need to be more clever with selections. Going just off the fact he's scored 16 goals, whatever it is this season, I think I understand why he's being called up, but I don't think it really makes sense if a coach looks at his own system. If the player doesn't fit his system, they shouldn't be called up. Simple as that.
And the simple fact is that there aren't a lot of opportunities either. It's not like you're like a CONCACAF team where you're getting friendlies left and right all the time, and you get a chance to experiment all these times with these different lineups. So the few camps that we have, you got guys like Azadi and Moranlu. What are they proving? When they're wearing a Team Melli shirt, what are we seeing from them? I saw Moranlu kind of pressure the Uzbek defender towards in, and then when he blocked the ball, and then when he had a chance to chase it, he was already out of gas. What am I supposed to get from these guys when you have a chance with Zahedi, with Zahirul Islam?
But again, what happens is in training, unfortunately, for whatever reason, now people might say it's good, maybe people might say it's bad, but he doesn't integrate young players
That's my
in
point,
training.
yeah.
So, like for instance, a guy like Limucci, who's done very well in the league, he comes in as a winger who he's been called up to the last 2. I don't know really why he's been called up, to be honest with you. I think it's a bit of a waste of time for him because he's never going to get a chance to play. But he's been in the last 2 squads. We haven't seen a single second of him, but he doesn't even get integrated into the training properly either. So for him to even be part of the national team, it's a waste of time for him, even Allah here, okay, arguably has had a really bad season since moving to Belgium, but you know, against Uzbekistan, we need to try and win the game. He brings on Gorbani, he brings on defensive-minded players
He brings
when
on
he could.
Moranlu.
Yeah, it brings on Moranlu, who again is still a defensive-minded substitution because you know that Moranlu is not going to be, quick and try and get on, lost causes. He's going to just stand there and just be a target man for when the clearances happen. So
Defensive minded against Hong Kong and Uzbekistan. Hey, he appeared in both. Like, really? That's who you bring on? And the fact that he bring these guys on kind of late. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I've said this for a while. The only thing that I will give Ghalenoei, which I think he's actually done very well as a positive, is his able to bring in someone good in the team. He's given him a real role in the team. That's the only thing I'll give Ghalenoei. I mean, Irfan, you might disagree with me, but I think really it's the only thing that he's done well that's really impacted the team and given us a real solid midfielder to play in there. Other than that, I don't see anything that's been special from Ghalenoei.
Yeah, and I was going to say Irfan can't even be happy because we didn't see Cheshmi be playing. Irfan's his number one defender. We haven't even seen him in the last camp.
Yeah, I was in tears when I saw that list, bro. You couldn't imagine my surprise.
But Javad Hossein not playing is a real problem because you've got a guy who, if he went to a team in Europe tomorrow, he would be a starter, and to not play him now, I think is a real problem. I think it's just I don't get it. Like, how is he not played a game yet fully? It's really bad.
There were a lot of goal scoring chances brought up by Azmoun and Taremi from these two matches. One game, 4 goals. The other game, no goals. One person who did see that up close was a guy that Arya actually knows, and that is Leon Jones from Scotland with Hong Kong citizenship. And Arya got to interview him. It was pretty neat to interview someone who interviewed these guys or matched up against these guys up close. And Arya got a conversation with them. Someone, Arya, who you know. So let's listen to that now.
Okay, I'm joined by Leon Jones, an old friend from school. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well. How's yourself?
Good to have you on the podcast. Gol Bezan podcast. We've been covering Iranian football for obviously 10 years now, but we've had Hong Kong journalists on since we've played Hong Kong quite a lot since the last qualification. But I saw you play against Iran the other day, and I was like, that's the guy from school. And immediately I was like, I have to contact Leon to get him on the podcast. So good to have you on. Leon, just quickly go through, your kind of career since leaving Scotland. Obviously, you played for Hearts. You're playing in the Championship in the Scottish. I think is that right in the Scottish league systems. How has that gone? And obviously, you went to America and Hong Kong. Just give us a little brief about your career.
Yeah. So obviously grew up in Scotland. Came through the Hearts Academy. I first joined them when I was 7. Went all the way through until I was 19 with the under-20s, and you'd often be around the first team training, playing some of the pre-season games with them. And it got to that stage where Hearts were looking at offering me a year's extension up until the age of 20. But I thought at the time, with the way the club was going, the people in charge at the club, that chances to make the first team and opportunities for the first team wouldn't have been there for me. So at that time, I also get the offer and the chance through First Point USA to go out to the States on a scholarship. And the Kentucky coach at the time, Johan Sedergren, came out to watch me a couple of times and I think liked what he saw, so offered me a 4-year scholarship there. So my last season at Hearts, I decided to go with the 4-year scholarship instead of accepting the year's extension at Hearts, and thoroughly enjoyed my time at Kentucky. You obviously have to do studying at the same time whilst playing, but it really is quite like
What did you study
full.
when you were there?
I studied chemical engineering. That was my major, and I got a minor in mathematics as well. I just wanted to, I was interested. I'd done well in my hires as well at Hillhead, and got 6 hires and an advanced hire, and I was always interested in
A lot better than
chemistry.
me, Leon. You did a lot better than me.
Yeah. I was actually the Ducks of Hillhead. I got the Ducks for Hillhead.
Yeah, I remember.
Year.
Yeah, for sure.
So always interested in maths and science, and I thought chemical engineering fit that quite well when I first came to Kentucky. So decided to start with that as my major. Didn't realise it would end up taking a lot of time, a lot of studying, a lot of discipline and effort. But I'm really glad that I did it, because it's such a worthwhile degree as well, and something that I'll always be able to go back to and have.
You mentioned obviously going to US. Obviously, you played for Chicago FC United as well. We actually have an Iranian player playing in Belgium who actually played there a few years ago and mentioned great things about it. Did you play a summer there? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That was after my sophomore year at Kentucky. Summer there, the guys there really took care of the boys that joined the team in the summer. Obviously, you have a lot of players from different universities wanting to play during the summer, and you come together, and it was a great experience. That the boys on that team were really welcoming, and got on well with them really well. And I think we had a good team that year. We just, unfortunately, in the game, our last game, and I think it was like one of the tournaments to see who was the best at USL League Two. We lost. So, but I look back at that time fondly. Like, we were living in Chicago, downtown Chicago. I'd never visited there before, and just really eager to experience more of like the culture and visit different places in the US.
Nice one. Okay, so obviously you've got Hong Kong heritage through your mother, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So you moved out to Hong Kong to seek more football. You played for Eastern Sports Club there. Obviously done well, and you've got selected to play for the national team. You got eligibility last year, and you now called up, made your debut. How's it been this last year since making that kind of transition into becoming a Hong Kong player?
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs. When I first came out to Hong Kong, I didn't really know too much about the football. You'd heard of a few of the clubs name-wise, but not too much in terms of the level, etc. So when I first came out, I came out a year and a half ago, and I was looking forward to the Asia Cup, which Hong Kong had qualified for, and I kind of saw that as a potential goal for myself. Obviously, being a major tournament, I was looking forward to that. But I started really well at Eastern, but 3 months after joining, I picked up an injury and ended up spending a bit of a extended time out. So by the time the tournament came around, I'd been called into like all the squads from last year, March onwards, but just was really unfortunate with injuries that I couldn't attend any of the camps or the international matches. So it made it difficult for me to be available for the Asia Cup. But thankfully came back from the injury, rehabbed, got myself back playing, and first represented Hong Kong in they have a regional tournament that they play with the Guangdong province in China, and it's a Guangdong Hong Kong Cup. So played in that, and it was really good to experience that, like a big turnout for the fans for both games. And then obviously with this last international break against Iran and Turkmenistan, it was great to make my debut against Iran, obviously against such a good opponent.
Yeah, so speaking about this game then, obviously I say I saw you just playing. I just literally put the game on. I just saw like, oh, that's Leon. He's playing
Right.
against Iran. So I just saw you there. I was like, you're up against Osman, you're up against Taremi, two very, very good strikers in Europe, proving themselves in some of the biggest clubs. Taremi's going to Inter Milan now this summer. So, how did, obviously, the game was tough. It was supposed to be a tough game. Hong Kong scored 2 goals that game. So Iran didn't play at the level they're supposed to play at. And on this podcast, we've been very, very critical of them, so even in the last game that they played against Uzbekistan. But from a Hong Kong perspective, how did that game go for you? How did you feel? That night, that 72 minutes that you played when for a debut.
Yeah, it was a good experience. Obviously, I hadn't played in Hong Kong Stadium an awful lot. Second time playing there with that many fans as well. We knew that obviously Iran, being with the players that they have, that it was going to be a tough game, and it was bit of bad luck how we started the game. Obviously, I gave away penalty through handball, but it's quite hard to. Obviously, you go to block the ball, you don't expect it to hit your hand from close range, and obviously they go 1-0 up early on. And I thought the first 10, 15 minutes of that game was a little bit frantic. Like, they had a lot of shots, we had a lot of blocks, but ball hits the bar, our keeper makes a save. But I think we kind of weathered that well. And then obviously after conceding, we score quite quickly afterwards, and it's a good bit of play from Chunlok, the midfielder, who intercepts and then drives forward, and my teammate at Eastern, Mahu Wai Timmy, he comes off obviously the wing and gets in front of the defender, and it's a good finish obviously through the goalkeeper's legs. So at that point we think, wow, like, the crowd's behind us, it's 1-1, we're back in the game, and I feel we get a little bit more comfortable. I know Iran had a lot of possession and they're moving the ball side to side, but they didn't really have too much, I think, after that, up until their second goal, which was also a penalty, which I think probably is harsh, because looking back at the footage, it seemed our goalkeeper got a little bit of a touch on the ball as well. But yeah, like, going in at half time, 2-1 down, we scored their 2 goals. Iran's 2 goals are from 2 penalties, and we feel that we've given a good account of ourselves in that game so far. So we thought with the crowd that hopefully we'd be able to get back into it, try and level the game, and try and get a result against Iran. And then obviously second half, and I think with the third and fourth goals, I look at what I could have done better myself, and I think a couple of decisions I could have done a little bit better with. The third one, I thought that I should have just went back to the goalkeeper and just started the play again, but that happens, and the Iran centre back heads it, we head it, they pick up second balls, and it kind of shows you that, if you it's not that big of an error, but it's a little bit of an error, and you give like guys like Taremi like that opportunity, and like his finish is it's perfect almost. It's right on the inside of the post. I think if it's half a yard one way or the other, our keeper saves it, or it hits the post and goes out. So obviously that's 3-1, but then we get a chance again from the corner. I remember the ball coming in. I kind of like shielded it from one of the Iran defenders. One of our guys slide tackles, gets to it first, and then another debutant, Anthony Pinto, steps up and scores. It's a good finish into the bottom corner. So 3-2, and you're still thinking we're still in with a chance. And then obviously the fourth goal happens, where I remember seeing Taremi wanting to play that pass like a couple minutes before, and I think obviously the second time he gets it, we don't get quite enough pressure on him, allowing him to face forward and pick his pass. Two of our defenders step out, and it leaves a gap for Asman to run into. And I think it's a difficult ball to deal with. Obviously, you're having to judge the bounce of the ball, and I think possibly Asman gambles on me heading it the way that I head it instead of in a different direction. But even then, when I head it and he gets on the end of it, I still think I've got a chance to defend it. But he's got good feet. He moves. He shifts the ball quickly as well, and it's a good finish from him. But yeah, no, it was a good experience. It was just a shame that obviously Iran have the two penalties and I make a couple errors, because I think in general my game was pretty good. Apart from that, I felt we dealt with obviously their strikers pretty well and didn't give away too many chances.
Yeah.
So it was just a shame about that.
Yeah, I think it was a great performance by Hong Kong. I think every time you guys came forward, you guys looked dangerous, and Iran defensively looked really poor for I think almost all the game. And then I think you guys are not going to find it easy against the talent that Iran have got up front. But you did well for your debut. I think you did really well to show a good, and hopefully are you what are your plans now going forward? Are you obviously Hong Kong are not part of the World Cup qualifiers anymore, but what are the goals now for yourself going forward for international football, club football, etc.?
Yep. So my contract at Eastern just ended, and I'm obviously looking for a new team, but I've actually got a couple offers lined up, so I should be sorted for next season. Most likely staying in Hong Kong with my football. Internationally, I know that the national team have games September, October, November, December. So I think these next 6 months will be hugely important for me and for the national team. It'd be great to get some more experience playing with the guys there, and it's a big chance to develop, further develop your game, and even if you do well, it can create opportunities for myself career-wise in other places.
Great stuff, Don. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. Hopefully,
no worries.
All the best.
Happy to be on. Thank you.
Appreciate
Cheers.
it. All the best. Bye-bye.
Arya, any other thoughts from that?
Yeah. Just it was good to have Leon on. He's somebody I've known since being at high school, and then to see him in the game just pop up there, and then I didn't know he was playing until I just saw him on the pitch, and then just to see him playing against Hong Kong, a guy that went to my school, it's just a bit crazy. He had his moments. He made Osman think for the time he was on the pitch. He did give away a penalty, but I think it was a tough game. It's not an easy game to play against Iran, and the fact that he played his first match for Hong Kong in that game, I think he can be really proud of himself for that.
This round of qualifiers did end, and Iran did get to top the group, despite all the other negative stuff that we had to talk about. Now, here's where it kind of gets tricky in terms of understanding Asian qualifiers. They will start in September. Iran's not going to get a chance, I don't believe, to play until the next round begins in September. And so we have 18 teams that advance from this second round. They're going to be divided into 3 groups of 6 teams, and they'll each play a home and away round robin. And then the top 2 teams from each group will directly qualify for the 2026 World Cup. So from that, if I can bring up the standings right here, Iran and Uzbekistan obviously getting to the next round. And from Group A, there will also be Qatar and Kuwait. And I'm saying this because any combination Iran could end up with in the next round. That drawing will be June 27th, by the way. We'll be keeping you updated on our social medias with that. Qatar and Kuwait won Group A, thanks to Qatar getting a lucky break with the referees against India. So Qatar and Kuwait Japan and North Korea. North Korea is going to get the chance to go to the final round again. Not a fun place to try to win 3 points on the road, despite how bad they are. They advanced ahead of Syria, so we're not going to see Syria for once in the last round. South Korea and China advanced from Group C. Oman and Kyrgyzstan from Group D. As we said, Iran and Uzbekistan. Iraq and Indonesia. Indonesia, we have not seen in the final round in a long time. And then Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Jordan won the group ahead of Saudi Arabia based on goal difference. And then UAE and Bahrain. And then Australia and Palestine. Worth noting that Iran has never played Australia in a competitive match since the 1998 World Cup qualifying interconfederation playoff. What would we like to see from that draw?
I think I'll go ahead and start us off with this one. So the group that I want to see is actually I want to see Qatar in our group. I still want revenge for the Asian Cup. I think we were hardly done. It was a very harsh game, especially with what happened in the final minutes. I want to see Saudi. We haven't played them in a very long time, and their team. I mean, there are some questions they have under Mancini, but they're still a solid Asian side that you have to look out for. I want to see the UAE for obvious reasons. I mean, I'd love to see Team Melli play here again, and maybe a team like Kuwait, because I think they have a positive record against us, even though they're not the best of teams. So I'd like to see us play them. They haven't been in the final round in a very long time, even though they had qualified for the World Cup a very long time ago. So they are, or at least were, a footballing nation. So it's good to see them back in this round. And then from pot 5, maybe a team like Palestine, because they are improving. But I think we should still be able to.
You don't want an easy group, Irfan. You don't want it easy.
No, I don't want an easy group. I think we should show that we deserve to qualify. Because from pot 3, I picked Saudi, even though there are easier teams that we can get. But yeah, I want to see a hard group to really test this group of players.
Really, it doesn't matter. I agree with Irfan. I want us to get a tougher group. We're gonna have more teams in the World Cup in 2026 World Cup. Irfan just left there.
So we're guaranteed to not play Japan or South Korea.
Yeah, but I want us to get a tough group because I feel like really Iran need to qualify. They will qualify. They should qualify in every possible way, but it needs to be a meaningful qualification because we've had it a bit easy. We've kind of taken our foot off the gas these last 2 games against Hong Kong and Uzbekistan. So when it comes to the next round of qualification, I want us to have a bit of a test. If you remember last time as well, we had a tough second round of qualification when we lost to Bahrain and Iraq. We came through that. It was a relatively tough draw in the next round. We came through it quite comfortably under Skocic, but I want us to have a much tougher draw this time around in round 3. Not that I want us to lose, but I want us to be readier for the World Cup because I don't think we were ready enough in 2022 last World Cup because I feel like we played easy games too much and we just kind of took our foot off the gas when it came to the World Cup. And obviously, there's only so hard a game you can get in these World Cup round 3 qualification matches. But if we can get a team like Australia, if we can get a team like Saudi, it would be good. I think we need that for sure.
This is why I was so mad that when FIFA came out with the World Cup edition for the 2022 World Cup, it was just built in the game. You can't have a road to the World Cup like you did with the 2014 edition. I loved doing that. I loved being able to play against Bahrain or the first round against I don't know, Timor-Leste or Macau or something like that. It was so fun. But yeah, I mean, there is a chance Iran could play Australia. I would love to play Australia. A lot of traveling, but I mean, I don't like giving these guys an easy road and complaining about, oh, so and so adversity against Uzbekistan. No, that doesn't count. Try some real adversity. Go to Australia, play against a team like that, play against a go to North Korea, try a challenge like that. So that is a good point that you guys raised, that they should be challenged again. All right, now the latest FIFA ranking, just a quick update here. Iran staying at 20. I read that Iran had a chance the 19th to jump Switzerland had they beaten Uzbekistan. They didn't. So remain at 20, Japan at 18. As for the women, I'm trying to get the women's rankings right here.
Or 63rd.
Yeah, remaining at 63rd right now. Have they has the women's national team even been able to get any games recently?
Yeah, they played 2 friendly matches against Belarus and Tehran. They lost the first one 3-0, and the second one was better. They only lost 1-0.
But these rankings really, it's they are important obviously for some things, but we need to think about our national team actually performing well first and foremost before we even consider rankings, because at the moment in time we're not performing well. So
yeah, and they did just release those the women's futsal rankings. They're on number 8, I believe, in the world. And the bread and butter for Iran women has always been futsal, and we're just trying to elevate the women's game on grass. But futsal, and especially they're going to get the chance for the women's futsal World Cup. That's going to be really a potential for Iranian women to really shine on how good their football is, at least in the futsal lens. We are going to have some Iranian teams in Asian Champions League this year. Irfan, I'm going to let you really expand on this, just what we should expect going into the next season in terms of Asian Champions League and Iran. Iran still has not gotten a champion in the Asian Champions League in recent memory, for sure. So it's always been kind of a thorn in the side of Iranian clubs, right?
I mean, next season is going to be the whole new format of the Asian competitions. So in the AFC Champions League Elite, which is the first division, Esteghlal and Persepolis are both qualified for the league stage, and the Sepahan will be participating in the playoffs. They'll be hosting Sharab Al Ahli of the UAE in the first playoff round, and then if they do win that, they'll have to take on Al Rayyan Al Gharrafa, or one of these 2 Qatari teams. They're gonna have to play one of these in the playoff round. So good luck to them. But if they do lose a playoff game, they'll then go on to the group stage of the AFC Champions League 2, which is the second-tier competition. We also have another Iranian team in that competition. Tractor have qualified for that. So yeah, it's a good rebrand. I think 40 teams was way too much for a first-tier competition. So to see them decrease the amount of teams, I think it increases the quality. And every team is guaranteed 8 games against 8 different opponents. I think it's one of the better things that the AFC has done over the years.
And we are going to see an Iranian team in the Women's Asian Champions League. Finally, we are going to see Bem Khatun be able to compete against Asian opponents, or at least that is the plan, unless any nonsense goes on. Do we expect Bem Khatun to be competitive in their first opportunity against Asian competition?
So yeah, this is actually the first edition of the Women's AFC Champions League, and there's 22 teams totally participating. It's going to be 12 in the group stage, so Bam Khatun will be playing in the playoffs, which I think will take place in either Saudi Arabia or Thailand. Bam Khatun, dominated the Iranian league. Melli Mohammadi's former team. They showed respect to her, and they dedicated their league win in honor of her as well. So it was a very nice thing to do. But this team has done well actually over the past few years. They've participated in some of the pilot tournaments, some of the test events, and they've actually gotten better results than expected. So I hope with this competition now becoming a yearly thing and becoming a more serious tournament, it can maybe help improve the women's game in our country.
Yeah, but to not have Malika Mohammadi, just a horrible loss. To not just obviously as a player, but the tragedy of losing her in the car accident last year, just the presence and her leadership that she brought. Again, she's from the Baltimore area in the U.S. Was recruited by a friend of the show, Khosrayar, did accomplish amazing things in the advancement of Iranian women's football just in the last few years. To not have her, just a huge loss, because with her, that there is enormous potential, I think, for that team going into the season. But I mean, she really does set the standard, and she sets such a great example for this generation and the incoming generation of
I'm sure
Iranian women.
I'm sure there will be players of her ilk or her talent coming through the next couple of years. Obviously, with the limitations there are in the country, it's not as easy, especially when it comes to women's sport. We all know that. But even so, I still do feel like with the talent that we have, even some of the coaches we have in Iran, in the women's game specifically, we have potential to become a better team. The only problem is we don't get the support, the backing from the federation, and even the backing that they do give is a bit fake, isn't it? You know, it's a bit, it's like it's not real backing. It's more done for the cameras because we know behind the scenes it's not that true to the word. Um, so I think if that does improve, which I don't see happening, but if that does improve, I think Iran's women's national team can become better. But it just won't happen without that backing, that support, the financial support, um, the care that they need to have for their game to develop.
And let's not forget, so many of the women involved coaching and playing. Money is not a big, it can't be a motivating factor. There is not much money for them. It's the love and courage for the game.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't say that you can't.
I'm not saying about salaries. Salaries are salaries, but it's financing the costs of the game. The game isn't. It's not a cheap sport, football.
Which leads me into what we're going to talk about next, where we have some of the malintent, or at least the heavily accused malintent of what's been going on the men's side of PGPL, Azadigan League. Irfan, we're going to let you explain briefly what the latest on this situation is. Just essentially accepting of like a almost institutional accepting of bribery going on in both top divisions, referees, even journalists. Can you kind of expand on this for us, for those our listeners who might not be familiar with this?
Yeah, it's a very messed up situation. I mean, we've known for years, or we've suspected that there is some corruption going on in the league, but it's now been basically confirmed. We had, first of all, Khuadad Afsharian, who was the head of the referees association in Iran until just a few weeks ago. He was arrested. He then went on to admit that there were at least 15 matches that in which it was affected by briberies, which they accepted briberies, which is just insane. And this goes on for just not only the second division, but the top division, the cup games as well. And then who else? Sohail Mahdi, who was the leader or the head of the league organization. So he was in charge of organizing all the league games. He was arrested as well, although I think he was released on bail. And then Fariborz Mahmoudzadeh, who was the head of the Azadigan League during the time where Mesr Rafsanjan, which I'll get on to later, when they won the league in the second division, he was the head of the league. He was arrested as well. So all these bribery accusations, corruption allegations, finally it's been getting proven. And Adel Ferdowsipur actually did a very interesting, very nice interview with one of the former members of the federation, and he admitted to many things, to corruption in both the first and second divisions. It went on so far that Adel Ferdowsipur even said that VAR can easily be brought. Like even there was an amount of money in which the government actually gave to the Ministry of Sport for the VAR. but that money was lost. Now, I'm sure it wasn't lost. I mean, we all know what happened. They probably got
Lost.
yeah,
That's so
lost.
funny. It's
Lost.
so funny. Like
Incredible.
the fact they have the just they can just say things like that. Like it's so I don't know what it is with like some Iranian officials in football, how they can just come out and say like blatant things and it obviously be lies. Like, you know what I mean? They must have some super confidence, honestly. It's crazy.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, everyone knows it wasn't lost. I mean, that amount of money just cannot get lost. And it went on so far. The other philosophers said, if you can bring me proof that, we actually cannot get VAR because of sanctions and this type of stuff, it's all just, it's excuses. He said, if you bring me proof that if these are the actual reasons, I will shut down my show. I will never make another episode. That's how confident he was. And it just shows how insane things are. And, with Mr. Rafsanjan as well, their whole season, I think it was 4 or 5 seasons ago when they got promoted to the PGPL. They had some accusations of bribery back then, but it wasn't anything big. Now people are realizing what really happened and all those games. We can't go back and fix it, but we have to do something going forward. And there's also been, many members of the media, journalists, like Samson said, as it's some heads of some of the bigger media organizations in the country who knew of this but still decided to hide it. They've been arrested as well, and it's just crazy what's going on. It's insane.
yeah, I mean, you look at, obviously you mentioned at the start when you started speaking about this, Irfan, we always not speculated, we always have known that there are these briberies, there are these dirty, money getting spread around, or just there's always things happening behind the scenes that we always know happens. They used to come to light more when Arya had his older show, Navad, but obviously since then been less so. Obviously now he's got his new show, Football 360, who has been able to kind of shed some light on other controversies in Iranian football. But we know that even at the even at the grassroots level, there are some major issues. I mean, there was a little while ago, I don't know what the actual story was. I don't know if you remember, Irfan or Samson. It was about a year or two ago when it was something to do with grassroots. And was it someone? I can't remember what happened, but it was something like one of the coaches did something or something like that.
Like a child,
Yeah,
like a child
was
endangerment, child
child
molestation.
child molestation, I think it was, and that kind of stuff happened.
Yeah, and the Mashhad, I think it was in Mashhad
Yeah,
when something like that happened. Yeah,
and obviously that's a very higher degree of of crime that's been committed. But at the same time, these things happen all the time in Iran, all the time. I can put my name on it. They happen, no doubt about it. The only problem is they don't get brought to light that often, because there's money involved. There's pockets to be filled. Money does get put in people's pockets very easily in Iran. People get donations like it's just like, just like nothing. People would get donated money like just randomly. Like if someone wants.
And what happens with the oversight? Oversight from FIFA or even at the continental level? Iran is one of Asia's biggest footballing countries.
Well,
AFC
is not the cleanest of confederations in the world either. So they can't really come out and be like, "Yo, why are you guys doing that?" Because like we're doing it too, mate. You know what I mean? So it's like, um, although there's probably, I mean, like put it this way. Why does AFC not have financial fair play? Do you know what I mean? Like, clearly there's a financial fair play issue in Asia, but they don't put that in. So clearly there's a lot of issues in AFC that clearly they don't care about or they don't address, even in their own organization. So they have to address those things before they start addressing other people's problems. And in-house issues need to be solved in-house. But the problem is the house is also corrupt. So it's just layers of corruption. I think that's the problem. Yeah, but I mean, again, like when we had Shahabedin Azizi, the last one of the last presidents of the IFF or Federation of Football in Iran, um, he he was obviously corrupt. After he left, it came out that he was very, very corrupt. He was stealing money. He was doing this and that. Um, Mehdi Taj has not had a clean record at all since his career in football. Kafashian before that. Again, these are the top of the table people, So it's not like, they hire people who are also clean. So that's the problem. Obviously, we had Dodcon back in the day. If you remember, he was a little bit better. He was quite well supported by a lot of Iranian footballers, especially in recent years as well. But he's been kind of shafted to the side. No one really cares about him anymore for that reason. So
That's what
clearly,
happens when you're clean in Iran.
yeah,
You have to
and
be corrupt to reach the top.
that's what happens. You can't. That's true though. You can't really be clean cut and work in football in Iran. You can't. Because you will actually fall behind. You will fall behind. It's one of the reasons why, I'm gonna maybe put accusations out here. That's why stuff like doping is quite prominent in the lower leagues of Iran, because if you don't dope, that's well, not saying that's true, but in their eyes, in the players' eyes, if you don't dope, if you don't take steroids, for example, you'll fall behind. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens in Iran.
Other transfers that we should be expecting this summer, ones that we wanted to mention.
I mean, we can't obviously say anything until it's 100% confirmed. We've seen that a lot with the Iranian players. But yeah, we want to see maybe something like I've seen rumors of Sarkhizan, that maybe he's going to go to Europe. I think the Russian league was what we saw. So hopefully we see some of the younger PGPL players get moved into Europe. That's what I really want to see.
I don't mind players going to Russia. I think if it gets them out of the Iranian league, I don't mind it. It's not a great league to go to at this moment in time. Obviously, you know what's happened with Russia and Ukraine over the last few years. It's been Russia are not part of European competitions, but it's still better to go there than going to stay in Iran. So I think players like Rayvandi, players like Kasra Tahiri, Mohebi going to Russia has been quite positive, and I think a lot of the Russian teams are now looking at Iranian players, which is good because we had that in the past with Milad going there, Saeed, Sardar, Shekari, etc. So hopefully it happens more and more. I'd want to see more midfielders going to Europe. That's what I really want to see. I want to see, like, for example, Jawad Hossein-Nejad. Hopefully, when Yasin Salmoni comes back in, we can see him go and play in European football. We still have Yadigar Rostami playing in Poland as well. He's not done too bad actually since he's been out there, but we need to see more of him. So hopefully, we will have some news. At the moment, there's not really anything official. Maybe someone might have a move this summer. Obviously, he's out of contract. Jahan Bakhsh as well will probably stay in Europe, most likely. And then I think I think maybe we need to see what happens with Sardar Osman's move away from Bayer Leverkusen. So there's still some things. It's a little bit early still in the transfer window.
And Osman, by the way, he does get a ring or whatever accounts for winning the league, even though he was on loan the entire time. He was still owned by Bayer Leverkusen. Speaking of an Iranian player in Europe, well, a player that's not Iranian but plays in Iran, the PGPL actually will have representation in Euro, or does right now. It's Giorgi Gvelesiani. I swear I'm part ethnic.
Let me help you out with that.
Gvelesiani.
Gvelesiani, yeah.
Gvelesiani. Yeah, one of the is he like the main sweeper for Persepolis? Right, I should be knowing this. I'm wearing the shirt, but a consistent starter with Persepolis. Is that right? He finally called up to the Georgian national team, or Gorgistan, maybe we should say. By the way, his first name is Giorgi. Like, is that like his nickname for being Georgian? Like, I feel like if you're from Georgia, like that would be your nickname, Georgi. I don't know, but yeah, he's called up. He's in the Euros right now. So if you want something relevant, if you're a fan of Persepolis, you can look out for that when watching Euros.
Started the last friendly game. Actually, he hadn't been called up for a long time until the end of last year. But also I'd like to mention this very good thread on Gvelesiani actually by at TM Player Source on Twitter. It just explains all about his time in Iran and which clubs he's played for there. It's a very good thread. I recommend you check it out. And yeah, he just recently really got into the team. So I think it's the first time ever we're seeing a PGPO player playing in the Euros. So I mean, it's nice to see. And even though I'm an Estatal supporter, he's a very likable guy. I mean, he just plays his game, and he's actually nicknamed Gorjistani Dustashtani in Iran. So I'm very happy for him, and I hope he can get some game time.
Yeah, good to see. Good to see Kvaratskhelia, by the way, the Serie A player, getting to play in Euro. And by the way, I've always said some of these Chechen countries would be great for Iran to get more friendlies against. You talk about Iran trying to get European friendlies once or twice a year. It's obviously really hard with the qualifying schedule, but I'd love to see a friendly against Georgia, Armenia, Turkey again. Those always are a good experience for Iran. Closing out this episode, then, guys, we did just celebrate the 1 decade of Gol Bezan. It started as just an idea from our founder, Pasha Hajian, when he was at University of Florida in the onset of the 2014
Insert
World
his
Cup.
video in here. It's a nice video.
Yeah, great video. Really appreciated him recording that for us. It's obviously since ballooned into the production that we have today. And just sharing memories of just how we first found out. I first saw it come up, I think, on my Twitter feed during the 2014 World Cup. Hearing this guy talk about it, I had Iran front and center. I didn't actually realize it was mainly about Team Melli at first. I was just like, oh, this is in English. This is great. And then Arya, you got involved about a year into it or something like that, and he eventually handed it off to you. What was your first introduction, I guess, into Gol Bezan? How did you even find out?
I got into it a little bit later than a year. I think it was probably a couple of years into it. I was just on Twitter one day and I just found it. It was one of those things that just popped up on my timeline. I was quite involved on Iranian Persian football forums. I think at the time there wasn't that many other shows or podcasts that were about national team. There wasn't really anything. It was always Navad, which was in Farsi. Team Melli Talk as well. That came a little bit after Gol Bezan. But Gol Bezan started out in 2014, just before the World Cup. Babak Pejman, Sina, and Pasha, of course, started it, and then I just joined it because I was like, they were kind of struggling with some of the production of it. It was quite hard for them to kind of produce the content that they wanted to at the time. If you go back and watch some of the older episodes, people will admit there weren't very good episodes in the quality of the audio, because we didn't have video at the time. It was just audio.
Yeah, it was just a Skype call, I think, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. It was Skype call. It was recorded. And actually, it was way worse than that. I think Pasha literally put his microphone to the microphone like that, like to record the rest of the audio. So it was just one of them things that we kind of had to iron out. So I was very young at the time, so I kind of made it my mission for a couple of years to kind of really develop the social media behind it, kind of make sure we have good branding, website looks good. I think I remember at one time I spent about 6 months just going over all the social media accounts, starting from scratch, making sure the bios look good, all that kind of stuff, all the basic stuff, but making sure everything looks good. And then obviously we brought in yourself, Samson, for editing the podcast, which gave us massive opportunity to make more podcasts, to do better content, you've done so well in that respect, but also bringing in Mahdi as well later on to give us the graphical designs for our podcasts, artwork that we've been able to do, changing the logo, etc. And then just the kind of the amount of journalists we've had on, bringing in new hosts, Sina, bringing in other panelists like Irfan, other Arya as well, Daniel, etc. Sahand, we're bringing in so many other panelists and also writers that we had as well over the years. So it's just we try to expand the group that we've got just to make it a well-oiled machine. Especially around the World Cup and Asian Cups that we had. And then, we were invited down to interview Gareth Southgate before the World Cup, which was probably one of the biggest achievements that we've had. We've and also now Irfan's going out to AFC competitions. He got to the AFC Champions League final. So things like that are kind of nice to see because of how hard we worked behind the scenes, kind of tirelessly to kind of make it to a standard where we can be respected within the international media.
And by the way, a guy who has brought just a huge propulsion of PGPL knowledge and updates, Irfan Hosseini, was maybe 8 years old when this podcast began. Wait, are you 18 now, Irfan?
I will turn 18 in a month, so I was 7 when the podcast.
So you were 7.
I never thought of it that way.
Gosh.
Actually. That's kind of crazy. I never thought of it that way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
okay,
yeah, I'm gonna speak a little bit. Yeah, just
yeah.
I'm a bit younger than you guys, so I got familiar with Gol Bezan a bit later on. I think it was around 2019 after the Asian Cup, and I first joined Twitter, and I found your guys' account. It was very nice to see because I didn't know Farsi too well at the time, so I needed to listen to something English, and it was just amazing. And I don't know if you guys remember this, maybe Arya does, but there was a tweet I made. It was like the best combination out there, Gol Bezan and Ghormeh Sabzi, and I just tweeted out a picture of me listening to the podcast while I was eating Ghormeh Sabzi.
That was you?
That was pretty good.
I didn't know that was me. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was just memories, and then I got on the podcast the first time after I think we qualified for the 2022 World Cup. I was here at one of the fan reactions. It was a very big moment for me. I was very happy, and then less than a year, or just over a year after that, actually, it was in June of 2023. Arya hit me up. He was like, "We'd love to have you on as someone who covers the domestic football, someone who covers the Asian and maybe Asian domestic football as well." So, yeah, I think it's positive for both parties. Gol Bezan has helped me so much into doing what I love, which is covering the sport, covering Asian football, especially. Without Gol Bezan, none of this would have been possible. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity, not only Arya, but everyone else. The Asian Cup was probably some of the best moments of my life with Daniel and Sina. It was just the group of guys was amazing. The vibes were so good, and it's making me a bit emotional, but yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah,
even though I've only been here for a year.
You three did amazing work out there in the Asian Cup, and then I think the main thing to kind of wrap up this conversation. I think the main thing, and I think Samson, you'll probably agree with me, is the group that we've got in Gol Bezan. Not just us, the 10 or 12 of us that are there, but also the kind of external group. The journalists that we've had on that are still kind of part of Gol Bezan in some way, like Nima, for example, etc. The group that we've got, the people that are part of it, I wouldn't change it for anything, because that without them, without people that are contributing to Gol Bezan constantly, it wouldn't be what it is today.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking of right as we were having this conversation, who were the best guests we have gotten? What comes to mind is obviously, and this can be in any particular order based on what you find to be most important, because you'd probably say Southgate because you live in the UK.
I wouldn't say Southgate. I think he was probably the most high profile one.
High profile.
But I think the best guest I ever had was Shojaei. For sure. Like he was he was brilliant. He really gave his time. He was very humble. Just really was patient with me. It was tough for me to do in Farsi at time, but he was very, very good. Gave a lot of information about football. He spoke about, youth in Iran, etc. I think he was great. But also the other one that I really enjoyed interviewing, and me and Sina did it together, was Dr. Craig Duncan, who was the sports scientist under Carlos Queiroz. His interview, which didn't get a lot of views at the time, I think it was probably because he wasn't as well known. But if you go back and listen to that interview with Dr. Craig Duncan, it was a very insightful interview that we really enjoyed at the time. It was really interesting.
So yeah, I'm a bit newer to the Gol Bezan scene. I wasn't here from the very start. So I think one of my favorite ones was the one you guys did with Qolizadeh and his wife Yasser and Farmani. I think that was a very nice interview. To have a player from both the men's team and the women's team at once, I think I really liked it. And also some of the interviews we did in person at the Asian Cup, like speaking to like of Salman, Said, Morzapola Ganji and Shojaei. I think just shows the improvement of the podcast, how big and professional we've become, and it's just really nice to see.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than interviewing these guys post-match at the stadium grounds, which is what we have done, which is what Irfan, you guys did, you, Sina, and Danielle, at the Asian Cup. That was as good as it can get. You talked to Saman Goldus, you talked to Jahan Baksh. And by the way, if you're watching this or listening to this, I very much encourage you to go back, watch those interviews that we did throughout the Asian Cup, or even before. Go back and listen to or watch our Southgate interview that Arya had with him back in, I want to say it was 2017. Pasha interviewed Carlos Queiroz. It was audio only, but you can go back and hear that on our podcast platforms. It's way back in the archives, but it was a great conversation. Pasha did a great job. So we have interviewed these guys. I always talk to someone who I meet who I'm just meeting, who's a big fan of Team Melli. I just list off, look, man, we've talked to Jahan Baksh, Godus, Ezotollah, these are the starters.
Yeah, Giorgi Cruyff as well. We had him on a little
Giorgi
while
Cruyff,
ago.
that's right, we did.
It was a really good interview, that one.
Derek Ray. Don't forget about Derek Ray.
Yeah.
A lot of our American viewers know him. He was on the Euro call today.
Yeah, Jimmy
we talked
Conrad,
to him.
Derek. That was also probably one of the biggest things was trying to get journalists on from the different nations. One of the hardest things to do is actually do that, but it was so interesting to me, like how daunting it was before, like to ask Derek Ray, to ask Jimmy Conrad to come on the podcast, but then how open they were to just come on the podcast and give their views regarding their national team. So that kind of stuff. Even like the obscure countries, we've interviewed like a journalist from like Nicaragua. We've interviewed journalists from like Hong Kong, for instance. We've interviewed journalists from like the most obscurest countries you could think of, because we've played friendlies against them. Like we interviewed a guy from Bosnia and Herzegovina one time. So yeah, it's been great. It's been great. Good run so far. Hopefully it may continue.
I think the best co-host we've had still is Stephen Beta-Shore. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased from being
for sure. No, for sure.
Man, you talk about
brilliant.
insight. That's a professional mind. And again, we're bringing up all these so you can go back and see for yourself, because these are still all on our YouTube page. So definitely encourage y'all to check that out. Any other further thoughts, guys, before we close this out?
No, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody. We will have an interview next week, hopefully, or the week after. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's hopefully going to happen. I've been kind of trying to get it for a long time. And we'll give that hopefully next couple of weeks we can get it edited, etc. And yeah, we just want to keep on producing content. It's not going to be as regular as it maybe used to have been, just because we want to kind of make our podcast a little bit longer. I think before we used to kind of rush the podcast. We used to always say, no more than 1 hour. That was it. And it was like, we kind of rush the conversation, and a podcast is long form content that needs to be not rushed. So we're going to try and do that from now on.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say a big thank you to the listeners, the supporters, the patrons, everyone, because you guys are the ones that allow this to happen, that allow us to become what we are, along with, of course, all the other members of Gol Bezan. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, and everyone who has donated before and can donate through Patreon or whatever works, that really does give us a big boost with content, making sure we have good production value, good editing software, graphic software. That makes it possible. So definitely appreciate that. But all right, yeah, we'll be keeping you updated throughout all the happenings with summer transfer window, with the World Cup qualifying draw. On our social medias at Gol Bezan, whatever social media you like to use, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever works. As well as please click the subscribe button on YouTube. That's what probably helps us the most. It helps us the most in the free sense. So yeah, really appreciate you guys. Irfan, great chat. Great insight as always. Arya, great conversation. Thanks so much, you guys. And yeah, we'll see you on the very next episode, and we'll keep you up to date on all the episodes and interviews in the near future. Thanks.
See you guys.
Hi, my name is Masoud Shojaei. You are listening to Gol Bezan podcast.